have a kind of short informal agenda. So firstly, we'll let Professor Sonal to introduce this network and wonderful ideas, and then we will have a self-introduction, and then we move to a survey, online survey. So we just have some background information for us to move forward, and then we have two presentations from Ray on the standard and actor, and Gulay on sustainable agriculture behavior kind of perspective. It's okay. We start from you, Sonal, Professor.
Yeah. So before I begin, actually, I just wanted to have an understanding of how many of you know STFC Food Network, because I don't want to be repeating the same thing. Because I see some of the I know you, Peter, very well. Because I see some of the people who were also present in the last meeting that we had. So or better, I'll ask how many of you do not know much about STFC Food Network, so I can quickly go through that. Feel free to unmute.
Yeah, happy to hear again, Sonal, for good things.
Okay, so well, I'll just do then a quick rundown rather than spend a lot of time in this. So basically, we started this unique network, and the reason why I'm calling it unique, I'll let you know in a minute. In 2017. For those of you who are not familiar with UKRI, it's like one of the funding agencies in the UK. They have like 9 different divisions. One of the divisions is looking into funding physics-related activities and research, and STFC, which stands for Science and Technology Facilities Council. UK is one of the UKRIs out of 9, which would normally fund astrophysics, nuclear physics, particle physics, space science research, and those sort of things. But in 2016, this concept of bringing people from different disciplines came together. So people who are working in the food-related disciplines and people who are working in the physics related discipline to come together to co-design some of the projects and some of the ideas, share some of the ideas, which never would have happened without STFC Food Network. So since 2017, we started running this network. In the first phase was from 2017 to 2020, where we were only focusing in the UK, looking into the food security challenges of the UK and trying to understand whether data science or different sort of technologies or the facilities of STFC, which is more related to understanding the material sciences, can resolve or address some of those challenges. Then in the second phase, which is where I am leading STFC Food Network, we are focusing 50% in the UK and 50% outside the UK, in the countries in Africa and in Asia. So many of the developing countries and the least developed countries in those continents. So just a very quick recap. That STFC has a kind of, it's a different UKRI. It has its own campuses in the UK, and there are scientists who work directly for this UKRI. So 1,700 scientists working in particle nuclear physics, astronomy, based in different facilities across STFC. We have 3 facilities of STFC in the UK. One is in outskirts of Oxford in Harwell campus. One is in between Manchester and Liverpool in Daresbury Hartree Centre, where you have, if you have heard about all those buzzwords, big data analytics, AI, machine learning, cognitive technologies, and digital twins and all those things. So they are working on those aspects, but not necessarily in the food systems. So what we try to do in the network is to understand the different challenges in the food systems, and very conveniently we have broken down the food systems in 3 strands: so production, supply chain, consumer behavior, and nutrition. So challenges across these 3 strands, and which of those challenges can be actually addressed through the data science capability of STFC technologies and facilities. Okay. So this is what we have been doing for over quite some time with fantastic team that we have for project management to co-eyes and steering committee group with champions and liaisons that we have. One of our champions is here, Dr. Raymond Obayi, who's looking into the policy impact of the network. Now, we have been running different sandpits where we bring people together from industries, from academia, from different disciplines in academia, and policy together to co-design the projects, which would be more impact-driven projects or the challenge-led projects. And we have funded 100+ projects from this network. So here comes the idea of experts working group, because we want to now start pulling our research and those answers together that have been, like, funded in silos. So for example, there has been vertical farming project funded in the UK, there has been urban farming funded in Indonesia, there has been other controlled atmospheric agriculture funded somewhere else. What are the common sort of learnings, and how do we bring and synthesize these learnings together, how the future research should be, what the future research should be doing, how do we synthesize those knowledge and make sense of it. So this is where STFC Food Network Expert Working Group come in. And one of the expert working group is now into this vertical farming, urban agriculture, or any controlled environment agriculture, to understand what the future research needs would be or should be. And the main audience of this would be, if we can come up with some of the ideas together for, let's say, UKRI or any funding agencies, of where are the gaps in the system, what we should be researching on, then we can make a pitch for the larger grant projects with the whole community who is interested in this vertical farming. But it is also to bring in the best practices, and if there are any sort of industry best practices or standard operating protocols that needs to be followed, or any trainings that can be actually standardized for students or somebody who would wanting to be doing vertical farming or wanting to be engaging in vertical farming, then this expert working group would be in a very good position to produce this with the help of different knowledge exchange platforms that we are providing. And this webinar today, it's not more like a webinar or a panel discussion, but I think this one is one of the most informal discussion to start with. Today, we are wanting to open up this discussion with the wider community, wider than STFC Food Network, and offer this knowledge exchange platform and collaborative opportunity for everyone who is interested in controlled environment agriculture or vertical farming or urban farming. Yeah. So over to you, Jan, for introductions, and let's see why people are interested in this topic, where they are coming from, and how we could collaborate together in future.
Yeah, thank you, Sonal. And now before I'm issuing the link for the web kind of survey, very quick survey, 3 questions. Probably we can have a round table self-introduction, if it's okay. Paulina, do you have the link to post on the chat area or the QR code? For some reason, I couldn't paste the QR code here.
I'll paste the link that you shared.
Yeah, thank you. Just a roundtable self-introduction. I can see we're just probably following the alphabetic order. Is it alphabetic order? Yeah, alphabetic
order. Or you could just choose a person next.
Oh, okay. I'll just choose.
And then that person chooses next to them. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah, you can see the name. So probably I choose one. I still Alana Gruzakovsky.
That's me.
Okay.
Yeah. With this funny surname.
No.
People wonder if I am from someone from Poland or Ukrainian, but I'm actually from Brazil. But I do have this funny surname.
Nice to meet you.
So yeah, I am Alana, and I work at the University of York along with Peter, Bob, Doherty, Catherine Denby, and I'm research associate, and we work at Fix Our Food research program. And as part of Fix Our Food, I run a vertical farm in the city center of York. I don't know if I said, as I am biologist as a background, and I've been interested on the food system since 2019. With different aspects of the food systems, mostly engaging with the public, raising awareness of how different foods contribute differently to climate change. And since 2021, I've been running the vertical farm and doing lots of different aspects of the farm. The main goal of the farm is to develop a business model that is looking at these small container vertical farms, but not only looking at profit, also having social and environmental impact, how we can combine all those aspects together. But also to do this, we are building a relationship with the communities, with the businesses around the farm as well. And so lots of public engagement, data collection, and hopefully in the end of 2025, we're going to have this business model that can be reproduced in different areas, using vertical farmers as modeling to grow food in a different way, basically.
That's amazing. Do you want to choose one from the list?
So I have Sonal and Paulina. So I think I'll go for letter A, and Kush Prashna. Did I pronounce it correctly? Sorry.
You're right, Ashilana. That's not wrong at all. Hello, everyone. Yes, say I'm Ankush Bashar. I'm actually reader in digital agriculture in Newcastle. So that's what I work on, mainly precision agriculture. So from a vertical farming perspective, we have had like a couple of projects, which one of them I'm led and one of them which I was involved in. So the first one was mainly, so my interests are actually precision agriculture, genetics, and breeding, all of them together. So that's where I'm coming from in this particular case. So the first project was mainly looking at how we can actually increase the monitoring of pests and diseases in any of the control systems. And is there any way of automating those? So that's something which we are looking at the moment. So we are trying to automate using image processing and vision-based techniques to see if we can actually pre-detect stress. So that was one of the projects. As a part of that project, we were also looking at whether we can get any valuable information. So Lisa is here as well from Newcastle. So she was with me on the project as well. I mean, we all are working together. So we were looking whether any of that disease or abiotic stress resistant is actually affecting the crop so that it's not good enough for human nutrition needs. So, that was the whole platform which we were looking for. And now lately, we just got an Innovate UK project, which is starting in September. And that is mainly looking at biofortification and also breeding of these crops. So that's where the vertical farming interests are in this study. Thank you.
Thank you. That sounds amazing, interesting. Your choice of next speaker. Thank you. Ankush, do you want to choose the next speaker?
You're muted.
Sorry, I did. Yeah, I was trying to that. Yeah. So can I say Barbara then in that case?
Thanks. I'm Barbara Camanzi. I'm from STFC, part of, as you have heard, UKRI. I moved into the Hartley Center, which is one of basically what big computing centers we have made to the scientific computing department and Hartley. And we do digital technologies all across the border. So artificial intelligence, digital twins, all the form of computing, from edge computing, quantum computing, high performance computing. And I've joined to specifically to develop a program of activities for the Hartley Center in life sciences, across the life sciences sector. And I chosen to focus on three key areas because the life sciences sector is massive. And one of the three areas is agri-tech and food. So basically, there is, why I'm here, it comes up out from a initial discussion the network had with people at the Hartree, and I think was our Chief Technology Officer, Robin Pinnin, was initially involved in that one, in this one. When it came into post, basically passed it on to me. It's not that I have a specific project myself, but a kind of mine is more kind of a coordinating role on looking at opportunities and where we can apply Hartree capabilities to problems, and at this point making the connection within the Hartree where there are opportunities for collaborative projects in some specific areas. I think probably is enough for the moment. So I'll maybe at this point I'll given she has a camera on, Elisa Lopez Capel, please.
Hi, thank you, Barbara. Yes, so yeah, my name is Elisa Lopez Capel, and I work with Ankush in the same research group. Ignore the beeping in the background. The house is full into bits as I'm on the phone call. Let's not go into detail. So yes, I work in the same group with Ankush in vertical farming, and also I'm a senior lecturer in soil sciences, so also work in urban agriculture. So among the projects that have been funded in the past, I was also involved in the one of urban farming in Indonesia, where we were doing looking into collecting all the data from the farmers. So we had colleagues doing the agroeconomics, and then me helping with these other aspects of the soils and the yields and stuff like that. From SDSC, we had Jen Jensen at the time, who was helping us to create the digital maps. The work that just been Diego, who was the PI in Newcastle, just presented the work on one of the agri-economics conferences last March. And we're looking into having a follow-up project, looking into some aspects of linked to human nutrition, like stunting in Indonesia. So this is some of the things that our colleagues in Indonesia would like to explore in more detail from the urban agriculture project. Regarding the vertical farming, as Ankush mentioned, I'm not going to repeat what Ankush mentioned before regarding fortifying or control release that we can do in vertical farming. So I think we'll leave it at that so I can stop the beeping in the background and pass on to the next person. I think it's the next person that I've got next to me is Paulina Flores Martinez.
Hi, Elisa. I think it's a good moment for to introduce myself, because many of you are new faces to me, and I think it's good then. So I'm knowledge exchange coordinator for the SFN Plus. I've been working for around 1 year-ish with Professor Sonal, and I'm helping at the moment mainly with the organization and progressing with the efforts around expert working groups. So that's why you have been receiving so many emails coming from my side in terms of bringing you all together, setting up each working group. What are the main goals? What are the expectations, or what we would like to see to achieve together collectively? And yeah, as you might all know, or of many of you, we have 6 working groups, and we hope to see as many as possible of you at the conference in 2 weeks' time. So I'm here to help. Yes, I'll continue with, I think, Muchopa, if you want to introduce yourself, if you can and have a good connection, please let me know. I know it's Dr. Chitsa.
Hello. Yes, Chieza Muchopa. Thank you, Paulina. My name is Chieza Muchopa. I'm connecting from South Africa. I'm at the University of Limpopo in South Africa. And well, I'll just introduce myself as one of the members of a working group, and that working group is on smallholder, platforms, where we are looking at digital platforms for smallholder farmers. But my background is that I'm an agricultural economist, and my work really is involved with the farmers and smallholder farmers, so in the whole market chain. So I'm specifically in this meeting as a very interested observer of the other working group. Thank you very much.
I think I'm gonna go with
Yeah,
you.
I didn't finish. I
Go.
must do my part. Okay, no. Is it Gulay? Gulay?
Yes, sorry, my internet
GULAY.
connection got cut off, so I quickly had to change it around.
Yes, is that correct?
Is it my
think-
turn now?
Yeah, you're on. Gulay, Gulay. That's who I'm picking.
Yes, that's right.
So Gulay, we are introducing ourselves. We could just quickly introduce
yes.
yourself because people would be hearing from you in a minute.
Yes, my name is Gulay. I'm from Turkey. You will see from my presentation. I've just finished my PhD in agricultural economics. Before I was in sustainability, but for complications, I ended up in sustainable agriculture and sustainable food systems. I'm also in the sustainable urban environments as well. So I sort of work interdisciplinary. That's why I work with Yan. That's it really.
We'll hear more from you later on. Can you choose the next person, Gulay?
Oh, Jan, because my connection got cut off, so I don't know who really introduced herself or himself.
Don't worry, Gulay. I can go and ask Peter Ball. Can you please go ahead?
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Peter Ball. I'm from the School for Business and Society at the University of York, and I work with people on projects on vertical farming, such as Alana, who's here. It's not going to be a very good start for me to say I know very little about vertical farming. The reason for me being here is I've been on and am on projects related to vertical farming, and my area is taking a more systems perspective. So I'm really interested in how resources flow into vertical farms and what resources can flow out of vertical farms. So we've had one SFN project looking at how digital can be used to map flows, and we've got a number of follow-on projects either at the bid stage or the funded stage, and one of them is looking to how you can use biomaterials for construction of the next generation vertical farms. So can you construct these things differently to lower carbon impact? I will end there, and because people are moving around on the slides on the screen, I don't know who to go for next. We had Dele, if I've pronounced their name correctly. That was probably an appalling pronunciation.
Yeah,
No, I
that
think
is.
you were right. Peter, I don't know if Della can hear as well. Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, sorry, I'm joining from a mobile device.
Oh.
So the connection is not very stable. I'm joining from Rovaniemi in Finland. So I'm based at the Arctic Center, which is a multidisciplinary unit of the University of Lapland. So it's interesting to join this conversation. My area of specialization is in food sciences. So I'm quite interested, especially linking issues of climate change, food security, and also sustainability, within the food system are my areas of interest. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. Do you mind to choose one, or we choose one for you?
I think we can do it, John.
Yeah, okay.
Can we go with you, Ray, please?
Okay, yeah, happy. Yeah, so my name's Yan. I'm working for Nottingham Trent University. I'm an associate professor in building services engineering, and I'm also leading the CIPC Intelligent Building Group. CIPC stands for Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineering. Established in 1996, we have over 12,000 members in building services, and that is amazing. Gulay is working with me for that group. My involvement with vertical farming is started from a project funded by European Union Welsh government on plants and nature, working with arborists and Bangor University to see how we can learn from each other. And we interviewed, visited a few vertical farmers in the UK, so in London, Bristol, grow on the ground. And also we work with mushroom growers and some polytunnel kind of conventional protected growing environment. We also supervising a PhD student in urban agriculture and building control. So that area involved is modeling and monitoring. So it seems vertical farming is not conventional building physics topics. Quite a few new things I need to try. We collected quite a lot of data, but haven't got my hand out to look into it yet. But I'm really interested to work with you guys to explore in the future. I probably can choose Colin Hicks. Colin, have you spoken yet, Colin?
Sorry.
You're on, Colin.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes. Sorry, I wasn't expecting to speak, so forgive me. I've come here to gain more knowledge and for networking on the possibility of doing a PhD which centers on hydroponic farming. I'm very interested in developing a system for perhaps regenerative farmers, and I'm looking at a system which uses minimal amount of input and a lot of autonomy as well. I have 3 degrees, and I've also been working on my own entrepreneurship business, which was monitoring food waste in commercial kitchens for the last 5 years. And I'm very happy to just listen and learn, and also to try and expand my own network of activity in this area. So thank you very much for welcoming me as well.
Ollie, just on that note, we are selfish too. So we are, this is a bit of a participatory kind of discussion. So we would want to learn from you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Food waste is a big thing we need to look into.
I'd say from my own interest, I'd say primarily I'm a scientist. I've got a degree in physics, electronics, and my second degree was in AI and machine learning. And my last degree was in entrepreneurship, and my food waste systems degree is starting at Greenwich as part of the UK FS CDT program, which is in the last year. So I'm here early just to see if there is any possibility of, can I work in this space? How much have I got to learn? From my own experience, from what I've learned so far from my own business, I'd say it's not the technology that's a problem in working in this space. I'd say it's more of the governance and the behavior science that seems to be a big issue for a lot of the people that can actually be a part of this space. I think that's what I'd like to say.
Yeah. We can talk all day, Colin, definitely. Should we move on to, do you want to choose one from the list, Colin? It's okay.
Has Elisa, have you spoken, Elisa? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
she has, yeah.
So Islam would be the next.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to,
you
so that we get time for the speakers as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I was transfixed by Colin's background. It looked like he was in heaven. So yeah, so I'm Islam Abdulaziz. I'm a horticulture consultant with ADAS here in the UK. My focus really is resource use, which is kind of a broad remit, but simply it's everything except for pest and disease management. So anything that aligns against those themes. Within vertical farming, we have done quite a bit of work within vertical farming, looking at things like market positioning, trial design, vertical farm design, and kind of building, choosing quotes, that kind of thing, optimizing the design, innovation. So it's, I mean, I can go into some of the detail, but obviously some of it's commercially sensitive. But yeah, happy to be part of this and see where there may be some areas for collaboration. Also happy to see that Newcastle present, because I did my master's at Newcastle, and I think Ankush, I think I've met you before. So yeah, good to see you. Oh, I don't know who's left. I think, is it okay? Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. The last one, I guess.
I think we're missing still Raymond Obayi, Dr. Raymond, and it's actually Esther. Esther is one of our members, and she wrote, I don't know how good is her connection. She's also based in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. Esther?
Yeah.
Good. Would you like to quickly introduce you, please, as brief as possible? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Esther. I come from Kenya. I work in a research institute by name Kenya Marine Fisheries Research Institute. And just a brief background, my interests have been in aquaculture. That's what I'm doing as a researcher. So, and I've been in on the expert working group on the smart sustainable vertical farming. And my interests were in doing aquaponics. So that's what I submitted in my action plan, and that's what I've been interested in. So I hope I get more networks and collaborations on this. Thank you.
Hello, sorry, didn't recognize you by the name. I just know you are Esther.
Yeah, I'm Esther. Sorry, my machine had a problem in connection, so I had to borrow a friend's machine. Thank you. My name is Esther. Yeah.
Nice to see you. Yeah, talk more about agriculture.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ray, isn't Ray and the...
Yeah, so sorry, my name is Raymond. I'm a lecturer at the University of Manchester. And my area is in project operations and supply chain management. And within the network, I'm the policy liaison, so which means essentially looking at the scope of work or research that we do in the network and ensuring that it's aligned with external policies. So in order to facilitate future funding or the alignment with future funding calls. In terms of vertical farming, my main interests are around the management of the supply chain actors within vertical farming or controlled environment agriculture. There's quite a bit of gap in terms of the research around the supply chain actors, how they are aligned, how they are governed, what sort of incentive models they require, and that sort of thing. So I'm more interested in that angle of vertical farming and in comparison with conventional farming, seen as much as with every intervention, just like we have with electric vehicles and so on, it's proposed as a replacement to conventional agriculture. And of course, one would expect that the different stakeholders would have to realign themselves in this new supply chains that will be emerging. And so understanding those new stakeholder dynamics is kind of what's interesting for me in this area of research.
Last, Yang Lu, do you want to introduce yourself? Are you here?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So thank you. I'm a senior lecturer from Yangang University. My background is computer science. So my involvement in this regard is mainly from sustainability and food systems. So one of the projects we're working on is affiliate to SDF Food Network about food waste behavior change. So our focus is really on the individuals and household behaviors. So it's involved in nudging and my expertise in this area is mainly human-computer interaction, also from the data side. So regarding the vertical farm, I'm not officially involved in kind of projects, but really interested in the data part, like using AI machine learning to look at simulation of the climate change and also sustainability as well. Yeah, so nice to see you all.
Thank you. I think that's all. Have we left anyone? Thank you. Can we move to Rui for your presentation? Like try to 10 minutes is okay, and then we can have discussion as well. And then we move to Gulay for her presentation, and then her conclusion by remark by Sonal.
Okay, Sonal, can you please just share? Yeah. So I wanted to give a brief presentation about controlled environment agriculture from the point of view of businesses and policymakers. This is an area of research that has garnered quite a lot of attention because of the impacts, particularly with respect to sustainable agriculture. But what is more curious from the point of view of investors and governments is that it is quite a complex area of endeavor, implying that there are tons of different stakeholders from the tech side, from conventional agriculture, as well as from emerging areas of agri innovation, such as AI and so on. And bringing these actors together with different incentives and different missions, so to speak, and aligning these to create value becomes something of interest. Next slide, Sonal. From the point of view of supply chain management, for any initiatives such as these to take off, the advantages have to be glaring. And as we've seen from much of the research, particularly the technical research around the advantages of controlled agriculture, we find that there is a case to be made about how we can improve yield, improve sustainability metrics, also improve more detailed metrics around resource use, the quality of food, and so on. But from a business and governance point of view, there are several curious questions that still need addressing. And these are some of the questions that from the research that's available suggest that once these questions that remain unanswered, it becomes difficult to adopt these sorts of practices, and certainly to scale them to other areas or other food produce. Particularly in this space, we find that there are certain food produce that have been the candidates, and because they're the ones that are selected for research purposes. But scalability becomes a challenge if some of the factors that I'll talk about in the next few slides aren't addressed. So first one, so on next slide. First one is the fact that there are different approaches and different sets of metrics. So if we looked at open field, greenhouse, vertical farming, we find that against the different metrics, we have different outcomes and benefits. And because these are very resource intensive and expensive endeavors, investors, governments, and even the stakeholders would want to know what approach to focus on. Are these decisions location specific? Are they product specific? What are the considerations to bear in mind when selecting one approach as opposed to another? And what are the metrics that you're looking to attain? Are the metrics driving the selection, or are there broader business and supply chain considerations to bear in mind when selecting an approach? Next slide. The other consideration, of course, is that there are different deployments of these indoor, controlled environment agriculture. Disclaimer here that I'm not a specialist in this area, but from the technical research, it's obvious that the different approaches would require slightly different supply chains, slightly different configurations of actors, and possibly produce slightly different outcomes. Now, from a policy and investment point of view, these sorts of comparisons are critical for making these decisions around scalability and large-scale investment. And especially in terms of attracting the key players in the agri-food chain that will drive this sort of initiative, i.e. the investors, and then converting conventional primary producers and getting them to onboard into these types of systems. It's important for research to be able to establish some kind of comparative metrics for weighing these different approaches against each other, and perhaps recommending approaches that are best suitable for certain types of produce or in certain regions and so on. Next slide. Now, upon our reflection on the main areas that policymakers and businesses would be interested in addition to the more scientific research around controlled environment agriculture, we feel that there are at least 4 or 5 areas of modeling that need to be attached to any one of these sorts of projects. The first one, of course, will be some sort of comparative life cycle assessment modeling that is looking at any one of the controlled environment agriculture approaches from a life cycle point of view, to be able to demonstrate a little more than the environmental impacts, but also the other impacts like the social impact and the financial or economic impact on the different players. That way, when you're doing trade-off analysis to decide which type of approach to pick versus the other, whether from a policy point of view or from a business point of view, there will be some justification with empirical data to back that kind of decision up, especially given that there's a lot of argument about how this supports net zero. But when you bring in the LCA of other aspects beyond the plant itself, like the LCA of the production method or the LCA around the system of actors, we might start to see that certain systems might provide more complexities for agri-food. Certain approaches might provide more complexities than solve problems. Next slide. So now the next type of modeling that is central to this, it would be, of course, like Professor Peter mentioned, systems dynamics. There's quite a number of systems factors to consider, for example, land use, agri-inputs, the imbalances that might be caused in conventional agriculture by shifting certain types of produce from conventional to controlled environment. Modeling these types of system dynamics and seeing what kinds of impacts they have on both sociological, environmental, and financial metrics in the agri-food system is another area of modeling to drive both business uptake and policy uptake. Next slide. Next slide. Yes, stakeholder mapping, of course, is another crucial one where, as I noted earlier, there are different systems, different models, and of course, these different systems will include different stakeholders. And within these different stakeholder models, there are different stakeholder incentives. There's arguments about whether these sorts of controlled farming systems are best suited for consumer agriculture, for livestock agriculture, for cash crop agriculture, and so on. Having a clear idea of the different stakeholder maps, different stakeholder requirements as they suit these different types of agriculture systems is a very useful step in scalability, because without these maps, it will be difficult to know where the misalignments in incentives are and how those alignments can be incentivized. Next slide. I think the final one before I end. And finally, value chain mapping from a supply chain point of view within any complex process as controlled environment agriculture. You have several interwoven processes that have to deliver in terms of key operational metrics for the entire system to be considered as optimal. So although a system might be able to deliver benefits on environmental metrics, if it doesn't deliver on business metrics, particularly operational metrics, it is difficult to push for adoption and certainly for scalability. So part of a huge missing gap with respect to this area of research is value chain mapping, looking at all the connections or interconnections between the different actors' processes, and seeing how those processes can be better aligned to deliver on key performance indicators that would enable us to promote or at least to compare this kind of agriculture to conventional agriculture using the right type of empirical data. So these types of mappings or these types of modeling, together with what's already being done in the area of the more scientific agri-science and agri-economics and tech-based research around controlled environment agriculture. We think would be one of the areas to develop the working group along. Sorry, the last bit is incentive modeling. Because there are different incentives for the different actors in different stakeholder models. It is quite necessary, especially if scalability is one of the things to consider, to come up with particular incentive models that can work. One of the colleagues here spoke about developing or working on a project where a business model is being developed. Within these business models, of course, we know that there are certain incentive models that work for some and incentive models that work better for some and less so for others. There are certain incentive models that are more suitable to certain locations as opposed to others, and so on. So studies that are looking around the different types of incentive models that work for these sorts of systems are also necessary. So clubbing these 6 different types of modeling together alongside the more, like I say, scientific-based research is what is necessary, or the missing link, to enable or facilitate scalability and also to facilitate alignment with policies in this area.
Wonderful, thank you. Probably move to Gulay's presentation quickly, and then we have question and answer at the very end. Gulay, do you mind to do your presentation in, let's say, 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes? Are you there, Gulay?
Yes, I'm here, sorry. Yes, I'll try as quick as possible, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Paulina, are you sorting this out?
Yes. Can you see my screen, everyone?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Just start the. Okay.
Yeah. My research was on sustainable use of renewable technologies in agriculture in Turkey. Turkey is blessed with renewable energy sources. We are quite lucky. Yeah, you can change the slides. We are blessed with renewable energy sources. So we are 5th in Europe and 12th in the world for total renewable energy use. And the renewable energy production has increased quite a lot in the last 20 years, although we are a little bit behind using sun. I can change it. You see Turkey is doing quite well. Next one, please. Turkey is still a developing country, so energy use is generally increasing, but we will see energy use in agriculture is still fairly low, and some scientists reckons that this low energy use in agriculture may be barrier for renewable energy technologies to use in agriculture. Next one. So we wanted, in my research, we wanted to see how willing farmers to adopt renewable energy technologies and how commonly they adopt those technologies, and also factors affecting their willingness and their adoption. Next one. Generally, research shows that farmers are really aware of environmental issues. They are aware of the negative consequences of farming activities, like use of pesticides and stubble burning. And they're also aware of good farming practices and new technologies to use in farming. But, next one, yeah. But and they also show willingness to use such applications and technologies, but in real life, they don't adopt such technologies. So we wanted to see this willingness and a behavior gap in renewable energy technology adoption. So we sort of altered this model to see if the factors affecting willingness and behavior are the same or the difference, and what's the behavior gap between two. Next one, please. And my research was in the South Marmara of Turkey. The reason I have chosen this area is almost quarter of the entire country lives in that area, and Istanbul's population is about 16 million. My city, Bursa, is 4 million. So only 20 million people live there. And this eastern part is totally industrialized area, but the South Marmara is agriculture is big on there, and land is very fertile, and there is already quite a high renewable energy installations in this area. And the farmers in that area are younger, better educated, and wealthier because they have a high value added agricultural production over here. Next one. We've seen in our research that the willingness to use renewable energy is very high, but actual adoption rate is very low. It's 76% versus 9%. Next one, please. And when we check this with the world findings research, we've seen that we are actually not far behind. And we compare Turkey with Spain for being Mediterranean country, having sort of a similar population. Willingness is quite high in Central Europe or main Europe. But interestingly, renewable energy use willingness in United Kingdom and China is relatively low. This was surprised us. However, next one, please. Despite this low willingness, the adoption rate in China and United Kingdom, although it's low, but it was still higher than mainland Europe. And what's more interesting, in the United States and Scotland, only less than 1% of farmers really adopted those technologies on their farms. The reason for that, they were big electricity companies hiring land, and they were producing land, but for commercial companies, not the farmers themselves. Next one. And yeah, adoption rate was more or less the same in both three cities. Next one, please. And we've seen that the solar panels are the most widely used. 18 farms use them, and some farms use for greenhouse ventilation and heating, and very few used for water pumping and for drying agricultural products. No farm had wind turbines because these farm structures, roofs of their farm structures weren't unfortunately suitable to install wind turbines. Next one. And the whole idea behind using renewable energy technologies is that farms use their energy, so they reduce their energy costs and increase their profitability. But what happened with COVID, especially after COVID, we all know there was a big demand for food, but the supply was restricted, especially with the custom taxes and import-export restrictions. We couldn't import, especially from Ukraine and from Russia, we couldn't import some of the stuff. And while petrol prices were reducing in the world, it started increasing in Turkey, and all exchange rates started increasing. And Turkish farming is really like other industries based on all the inputs actually are imported. So seeds important, fertilizers, pesticides, machinery, even electricity, even petrol, all important. So when those prices increase, production costs increase. But what our government has done, instead of supporting farmers, they actually decided to import all agricultural products. So farmers actually who were planning to expand their production, and they were willing to adopt those technologies, even the ones who get the plans drawn, applied for the credit, so on, they had to first postpone this and then completely abandon this renewable energy technology adoption. You will see quickly here, every year diesel price doubled and electricity price doubled. And yes, government does buy excess electricity from farmers, but from this rate, sells from 2.6 liras, but well, buys from farmer for 0.32 liras. Next one, please. And yes, the cost of producing renewable energy is increasing in the world, is reducing, sorry, in the world. This reduction is only from 2019 to 2020, and also cost of technologies and cost of installing them reduces quite considerably. And we have this here example for PV panels. The cost of installation reduced 5 times, but in the same time, same area, a Turkish lira has lost its value against dollar 5 times. So actually there was no cost efficiency for Turkish farmers. Next one, please. Yes, there are some state supports and available out there, but with that price problem, and these are actually not available at all. Next one, please. Now, we also investigated individual factors affecting farmers' willingness and adoption behavior. We've seen that education positively increased in willingness and adoption, but as we expected, increase in electricity and fuel bill prices, or the money paid for them, both increased willingness and the adoption behavior. Next one, please. Also, we've looked at a couple of factors. The cost perception, for example, when farmer believes that initial setup cost is high or risk is high, their willingness and both adoption reduced quite considerably. And next one, please. And when we check willingness and behavior consistency, yes, education, electricity, fuel bill, total land were effective. But next one, please. The thing really make the difference was the state support. When there was the state support, farmers' adoption rate from willingness increased 12 times. Also, when their perception for cost, initial setup cost and risk increased, unfortunately, their willingness didn't turn into adoption. Next one, please. Yeah, generally, yes, government incentives, increasing energy bills, and interested in technology were the reasons for adoption, but it was in the previous slides. The last technology adoption was just before COVID, just before 2020. Since then, there has been no renewable energy installation. Main reason for that, it was economic uncertainty, shooting exchange prices, and yeah, then setup costs become even higher, and the generally payback period is between 7 to 10 years in Turkey at least. But when farmers can't see what's going to happen in 2 years' time, they don't want to invest, or they couldn't see what will happen in 7 to 10 years' time. So since farmers' debt has increased, they couldn't able to get bank credits and so on. Yeah, and the next one, please. Well, I would really suggest some conclusions, but we've had the election recently, and Jan knows we had the same government again. And there is really not much thing I can offer unless the state really puts hand down and introduce some state support and put the economy on track. Is it 10 minutes?
I think you were close, Gulay. Thank you.
Thank you. But before we have a very short question and answer time, let's say 5 minutes, and sharing my screen, this is a QR code. So can we finish in 5 minutes if everyone is okay? Yeah. Any questions about these two wonderful presentations or any suggestions for future activities that we very appreciated?
Yes, Peter.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Whilst you got the QR code up, I'll make a comment about Raymond's presentation. I thought it was really interesting, and my comment is that traditionally I've seen the agricultural part of food production and the processing part of the food production as two very separate systems. And I think what's interesting about what Raymond was talking about, he was bringing techniques that are often seen only used in one or only used in the processing stage, and applying them to a bigger part of the food system, and sort of blurring that production and that growing and the wider supply chain into one system. So I thought it was quite interesting, the view he was taking.
Just to comment on that. So that's true. There was a bit of a blurring of those system lines, and it was kind of a deliberate provocation, if you like, because from the policy point of view, in terms of investing in a particular area or seeing a particular area as worth investment, at least state-backed investment, as we saw from the other presentation. There has to be the impression that the investment will help the system, the supply system. I'm sure we're all conversant about recent funding calls to do with any kind of tech innovation. And there's always that a view that it has to have systems impact. And so part of the point I was trying to make with the presentation was we need to start looking at it slightly more from the point of view of more than one of the key system, supply chain system actors together within a system, so that when we're making a case for a particular system, it's not just from one actor's point of view, it's taking into account several actors, and then we can look for bigger grants and pursue more system-wide benefits, so to speak.
Very interesting. Any other comments, guys? So please feel free to fill in the form. It's just 2 questions. What activities you would like to see this group is organizing? So you are all experts in this area. And if you would like to present in future webinars, please let us know. We'll do our best to facilitate and promote it. I think we all share the same interests. So hopefully we can share some kind of understanding of project inside. Just feel free to fill in the form, or you can just email Paulina, Sonal, or myself, or anyone in the email group, and we can discuss what to do next. Yeah, please feel free to fill in the form. Sonal, do you want to do a conclusion remark? Or you want to?
Yeah, sure. So if you have already done or filled the form, that would be super helpful. I'm just trying to see. Do we have the numbers, Yan? Do you know how many people?
No, currently we only have one response so far.
So yeah, it would be helpful. So basically, because the idea of the having these, or at least initiating these conversations and discussion, is that we can hopefully collaboratively work with each other in future. whether to develop a kind of a report that goes to UKRI to highlight the research gaps that are needed to be filled through more research funding, and also co-develop the proposals together in this area. So any input from your side, don't have to fill it instantaneously, like, while you are here in this call, but if you can fill in, there would be a lot of follow-up sort of discussions with all of you who are present here and you who are willing to engage in future discussions with us. Ray, would you like to take this as an opportunity to ask a few questions since we have a few experts in vertical farming present, or would you like to have a kind of follow-up sort of through email individually?
Yeah, so I think what we discussed was to come up with a series of questions and maybe then circulate those around to the group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So so if and when you can fill in those questions, and I think helpful would be as soon as you can fill in the questions, we can have a sort of follow-on discussions based on your answers to those questions, and then we can co-organize, or maybe we can organize an in-person meeting somewhere in middle where it's comfortable for everyone to come in and do some sort of writing retreat, either for a proposal or for UKRI funding opportunities. And we are more than happy to fund organizing those sort of writing retreats for us. Okay.
So we have a couple responses so far.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure whether how I can share it. So just try to find a way to share. Sorry, I'm not very good at Zoom. I can do teaching in team, but not on Zooms. So
That's
pray.
fine. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't think so. You need to share it.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can circulate later on. Okay.
Yeah. Circulate it.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. I'm sure I will see you again in July in your wonderful conferences, Sonal organizing, and definitely get back to you soon. Many thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Cheers. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paulina.